open for questions. Julio Ibáñez, 2DN. Can you both explain to the Mexican people the phrase, I have faith, pal, and how you're going to execute it tomorrow? Well, that was a phrase by one of the players. One should never be faithless. And behind that phrase stands an entire country, but it's that. It's just a saying. And we'll get ready for the match tomorrow, but of course, we do have faith in ourselves for tomorrow. Coach, taking into account the speed of the Mexican wingers, do you think that you have to give space to play to the counterattack? Well, we will need to reduce those spaces, not only for the wingers, but also for the wingbacks that advance on the flanks and also on the inside. And they have a great football. After the match against Ecuador, we've been studying in order to counter the attack of the opponent. Carlos Suárez por TNVN in Venezuela. We lived two different matches, probably most of the people, the first half and the second half. Against Ecuador, we created a lot of opportunities. Do you think you're going to do the same for Mexico? Well, when you come up with the strategy for a match, you try to have 90 or 95 minutes played evenly. But of course, there is a game plan. The opponent has its game plan, and Ecuador in the first half had a dominated possession, and sometimes even after a red card, you can see that spaces become narrower, and there was a goal by the opponent. And then in the halftime, we talked about being calm, being patient. But when you come up with a strategy, you don't think about the first half and the second half. You think about 90 minutes. And during the match, there are different circumstances. There is an opponent, and hopefully, as you mentioned, we'll try to be at our best during the 90 or 95 minutes. Carlos Dominguez from Televen, coach. The individual performance assessment for the opener and its circumstances would make you make modifications in the 11 starters for the match against Mexico. Well, we will try to maintain our proposal. We'll try to reduce the level of mistake. Of course, in an opener, there is some level of nervousness or anxiousness. And regarding our team, we still have a training session tomorrow and a warm-up in the morning tomorrow as well. So I'm really pleased with the performance on the first match. Milena Simón for Vinotinto TV. Rafa, I asked this to you already, but one day before the match, after a victory and a great match in the debut, how are you feeling? Coach, considering the potential weaknesses of Mexico in aerial balls, do you think Venezuela will adapt and maybe play with two forwards, changing the scheme? Good afternoon. Of course, I'm really happy. We were a bit nervous about the opener, but I think it is very common because we all had our hopes up for that for the tournament, and being able to achieve those 3 points is something amazing to all of us. It is we really needed to have the same mindset for the two next matches. Mexico will be no exception. We will go for a great match tomorrow. Well, every player in the roster is in great shape, and Jonder or Edward that had to sub in, they were able to score, and sometimes we make replacements, and it is one of the alternatives we have. Tomorrow we might have that opportunity, but we're not going to stick to one lineup. It is great to have them all available, and that is great for a coach, and we'll see what we decide is best for our match against Mexico. Richard Mendez from ESPN, coach. The next opponent isn't as physical as Ecuador. What are the players of concern? Quiñones, Chaco Jiménez, Uriel Antuna, and Rafa Romo. In the match against Ecuador, there were two moments where we saw some level of disconcentration. One was a corner kick, and another one that ended with a goal by Ecuador. As a goalkeeper, how do you insist on the focus by the center backs to avoid distractions? Well, we discussed that when we analyzed the previous match, and we know we have to correct that. When Ecuador was one man down, we knew that they were going to do their best to hurt us, and they did. And I think that we have the capability to counter that situation. So, as you say, we might need a bit more concentration, communication. I think it will be of the essence for the next match, and we are working on it for its correction. Well, Mexico has great players. As you said, all the names you mentioned, they have a great 1v1 duels, and not only those players that you mentioned that play through the flanks, but also in the midfield. If you let those players play, you might have a hard time. So we need to work on our game plan to create challenges for the disruptive players, to double mark them, to try to close their spaces when they are carrying the ball. And those are the things that we work on defensively. Tony Carrasco, Globovisión. Well, we always need to take into account the 12th player, the fans. This is a very big stadium. There are many Mexicans. Do you see that as a pressure for Mexico or something that could intimidate Venezuela? And Rafa? Maybe one player you consider of concern as a goalkeeper, or a certain type of play in the flanks, or as aerial balls that are of concern to you as a goalkeeper? Well, we know the stadium will be crowded with Mexicans, but we know that if you are on the pitch and if you are concentrated, despite all the people rooting for one team or the other, if you're focused, you can forget about that. You can dismiss it, and sometimes, well, it could be bad, it could be good. Depends on the game plan and the evolution of the match. Sometimes when we are on the pitch, you totally forget what's going on in the outside if you are fully concentrated on the game. And I hope that is the case, that um, the players are very focused, even though, of course, we
Bueno,
want to
con
provide
respecto
the
a la
audience
pregunta,
with a
creo
great
que
show.
por lo que pudimos ver de México contra
Well,
Jamaica, es un equipo de
given the
transiciones rápidas
match between
que
Mexico and
finaliza mucho las
Jamaica,
jugadas, tiene
Mexico has
tremenda
fast
distancia,
transitions, they have
tiene
great
laterales, creo que es un
finishing,
equipo
they have great
que
shots
ataca bien,
for mid-range
como te digo,
shots,
que busca
and
finalizar bastante y a partir de ahí
they
nosotros tenemos que
attack
contrarrestar
well,
eso,
they
estar
have a great
muy atentos
performance
a
in
la rapidez
the
de
finishing,
su delantero,
and
sobre todo de
we
Quiñones, y
have
creo
to
que por ahí
counter
va a ser
that. We
también
have
la
to
clave
be
de
very
mejorar un
attentive
poquito nuestro
of,
toque
in
físico.
particular, Quiñones, one of their forwards, and
Buenas
also
tardes,
it will be
Rafa. La pregunta
key
es
for
para
us to
ambos
play well in the
desde Sky
defense.
Sports Media. Aparte de las conversaciones que ustedes tienen en el
Sports
camerino,
media for
¿cómo
both.
en lo personal
Besides
se
the
preparan
conversations in the
cuando
locker room,
ustedes solos, cómo se preparan para un juego
when you're on your own, how do you prepare for such an important match
Bueno,
as the one you'll play tomorrow?
no, yo creo que por mi parte uno
Well,
siempre intenta tener rutinas que te
you
permitan
always
llegar
try to
en el
have
estado ideal para el partido, tanto
routines
física como
that
mental,
allow you to get to the
porque
match
sabemos que es un partido
in great
importante,
shape,
sabemos la ilusión que
physically
hay
and
dentro del
mentally.
país
We know that
por
there's
esta
a
selección, por
great
el nivel que
level
viene
of
mostrando,
illusion,
por
of
cómo puede
hope
presentar
in
ese
our
toque. Entonces,
country.
eso
They
también
want us
te
to
motiva, pero también
transcend
te crea
in
una
this
presión extra que al
tournament.
final termina
That motivates you, but also it adds some
un privilegio,
pressure.
porque cuando hay
But
confianza quiere decir
it is a
que has
privilege because
demostrado
when
antes
they
que
trust
tienes la
you,
capacidad y
it
eso es lo que
means
está pasando para
that
nosotros dentro de la
you have
selección
already
y eso
shown that
te
you have the
obliga a eso, a
capability.
estar
And this
o
is
a
what
intentar
has
estar siempre al
happened
100%
for
para
us
que el
in the
rendimiento sea el
national team. And
adecuado y
that
podamos sacar el
makes you
resultado.
and force you to be at your prime, to have the right performance,
Profesor
and to
Rafa
achieve the
Emanuel Gutiérrez
positive
de
outcomes.
MG
Rafa
Sports.
Emanuel
Profe,
Gutierrez for
entonces
MG
Ecuador,
Sports.
a pesar de que Venezuela estaba al frente del
Against
marcador, ustedes se
Ecuador,
vio una
even
línea
though
que mantiene
Venezuela
línea con él y
was
Ramírez y
leading,
con
you
Salomón Rondón.
kept Ramirez
Para
and
su
Salomon
equipo tener
Rondon as
confianza
a
como lo
double
hizo con
nine
México con ese sistema,
because,
no solo para México, sino para el resto de la Copa, en el
I'm
que
sorry, as
se vio
a
complicado
double
también de cara a
center
delanteros.
backs.
Y
Do you
para
think
Rafa,
that
Rafa, ¿qué
is the
porcentaje le
system
das
you will apply
al que
to
llega al
move
partido
on
como
to
digamos
the next
a ese
round?
segundo aire que está en los últimos
Rafa,
semanas en esta etapa con la selección?
what is your take
Con
on this
respecto
new
al
stage in
sistema,
your career with the
no
national
sabría
team?
atarme a un solo
Well,
sistema. Siempre
regarding the system or strategy,
tenemos plan A, el plan B
I
y
don't
así,
usually
porque
stick to
hay
one
partidos que
strategy. We
podemos
have plan A,
sumar
plan B, plan
ciertos cambios.
C,
El otro día,
because
sí,
in the
siempre
evolution of a
hay algo
match,
que
you
por ahí lo
might
mejor
need to
era
make
poner un
modifications.
volante, poner un defensa,
At
juntar
that
cosas, y
time,
me
it would
parece
be
que eso es
easier. It would have been
algo
easier to change and have another
bien
midfielder or
deberíamos
defender. But I think that
seguir presionando el
Eric
rival
was
para que
doing
pueda
great,
remontar.
and
En el último minuto iba a trabajar de esa manera, lanzando
we
pelotas
wanted to keep
diagonales,
pressuring
y por eso
Ecuador
fue el cambio. Pero después veremos. Cada
in their goal
partido es
kicks.
diferente
So
y por ahí
we'll see. Every match
algo de
is
uno
different. We might need
cambiemos,
two
otro
forwards
cambiemos
or
algo
one
más,
or two
sabiendo cuáles pueden ser los
wingers.
minutos del rival.
We have to analyze
Bueno,
that.
el rendimiento que he podido tener en Ecuador desde mi llegada, de verdad que
Well,
es lo que me ha permitido volver a la selección y es algo que me contenta mucho. Para mí el partido contra Ecuador fue muy especial
um,
por eso, por
I
estar
think it was a
prácticamente
very
viviendo ahí
special match
y todas las oportunidades
against
que he recibido. De verdad
for
que ha
me.
sido importante.
When I played
No fue
against
fácil
Ecuador, I've been
para
living there
mí
for
poder
a year and a
volver.
half
Tuve una
now.
temporada
It
de
wasn't
pesadilla que
easy
nadie
for
merece. De verdad
me
que la más difícil de mi
to
carrera
go
por lo
back.
que
I had
sufrí y
a terrible
poder salir
season
de
in
ahí, poder
the
conseguir un nuevo
MLS
aire y poder retomar el
for
nivel, creo
many
que es algo
reasons,
que me ayudó
and being
mucho, que
able to
agradezco. La selección también
um,
estuvo muy
go
cerca de mí en ese
back
ambiente para
and
ayudarme a
regain my
poder
level.
volver
I
y
think,
tener la
well,
oportunidad
it
de
was great.
jugar
And I,
y
I
poder
also want
aportar.
to
Eso es
thank the
algo
national team
que es muy
because they were
gratificante porque
really
ellos de verdad me
close
ayudaron mucho
and they
y poder
allowed me
devolverle
to
un
have
poco a la
this
selección es algo
opportunity
que me
to
contenta bastante.
contribute once more to the national team, and
Hola,
that
buenas
makes me
tardes. Juan
really
Carlos
happy.
Ibarrarán de
Good
W
afternoon, Juan Carlos
Deportes México.
Ibarrarán for
Profe,
Radio W Sports
una pregunta
Mexico.
muy importante, ¿no? Hablamos de que México
One
siempre será un
important
gran
question,
rival y que parte
coach.
de México
We
dice que
said
Venezuela será un
Mexico
gran
will be a
rival.
great opponent.
Hoy,
Mexico
usted
saying
cree que la
Venezuela will be a
convocatoria está
great
en orden,
opponent. But
es de
now
las mejores Venezuelas
And the ranking, you're doing really well. You're one of the best of Venezuela's national team. You have Rondon, one of the champions in the Mexican League. And today, Mexico, if they were playing in CONMEBOL, would they be doing better than you? Well, it is a bad for scenario. I don't know. I wished they weren't better. And now we're going to be facing two more national teams. Mexico has a great ranking in CONCACAF. I don't know what the standing would be if we were sharing qualifiers. Out of the bottom of my heart, I would say I hope that they would rank lower than us. But I know that tomorrow we'll continue growing, and I hope we have a great match. There are two Venezuelan players that play in the Mexican League. Have you talked to them to ask for advice regarding Mexico's forwards? Well, beyond asking them, or in addition to it, we work on that with the coaching staff. If I have to ask them about something in particular and sees the chance that we have them in that league, I would do it, but I haven't done so yet. Good afternoon, Oscar, Giovanni Castro, Imaginación 96.1, Coach Batista, Romo. Coach, Mexico, favorite, leader in football in CONCACAF, they are the tough ones. But, Coach Batista, in your reading of Mexico, do you think that there is something inside Mexico's Pandora's box that could be unknown to you yet? Romo, you talked about a terrible experience or a nightmare in the MLS League. What is the strength you've seen in Mexico that you can talk about now, given your important experience in other countries? I hope that we've seen everything Mexico has to offer, and hopefully we won't see anything new. But if something unexpected happens tomorrow, we have to be ready for it. I know we're going to play against a great team, and they have players that have been together since the youth categories, and that is always an advantage. But we are ready and we are prepared to play tomorrow and the weekend, and this is what I try to convey to my team. We have to be ready for whatever opponent, and now it's Mexico, and we'll give it our best.
Con tu pregunta, creo que si hay una particularidad que tiene esta selección de México es que está acostumbrada a jugar este tipo de torneos.
This Mexican national team is used to this type of tournament, World Cups, Gold Cups,
y eso por ahí también es un factor determinante a la hora de
and that is a decisive factor when facing them, because they have a lot of experience and we respect them, but we also believe in our capabilities, our skills, and in our game plan. Ramón Medina, Diario El Nacional, coach, out of the national teams you've faced in your cycle, friendlies and tournaments, what is the most similar one to Mexico? And Rafa, what traits allowed you to now be in your prime reigning the goal? well, I wouldn't compare them by the system or game plan. I don't know if there is a similar team to them. I already mentioned they have a great strategy or performance. And I don't think I can compare them to another
No, yo creo
national
que
team.
si hay un atributo que yo pueda destacar
Well,
de
if I have to
México,
highlight
mi estadía normalmente en la selección es la
one
disposición al trabajo,
trait,
a siempre estar
it
disponible. Yo
would
creo
be
que
willing to work.
dentro de la selección hoy en día tenemos tres porteros de gran nivel y
Today we
luego
have
la decisión la
3
toma el entrenador
high-level
y a partir de ahí uno lo
goalkeepers
que
in
tiene
our
es
team,
que,
and the
como te digo,
decision
intentar siempre sumar desde donde nos
is
toca. A veces
made
te
by
toca en
the
el campo, a veces
coach,
te toca
and
en el
sometimes you have
banco, a
to
veces te toca en la
contribute
tribuna, a
from
veces tú como
different
fanático. Para
places,
mí
the
la
bench,
selección es lo más
on the
importante que uno
pitch,
tiene como jugador, es el
or
máximo
on the
orgullo.
grades.
Uno siempre intenta sumar
And
y como te digo,
to us
luego
as
uno
players, playing for
trabaja,
your
uno está
national team
disponible y
is
luego el entrenador decide. Y
great pride.
si
But
estoy hoy y tengo la oportunidad, de verdad que
the coach
estoy
makes the
agradecido y tengo que seguir
decision,
trabajando, seguirme
and
esforzando
I am
porque mis
really
compañeros
thankful to
lo
be
hacen
in
de la
this
misma manera,
position
pero tengo que
today,
seguir
and
con
I
esa
have
fuerte
to
decisión
continue
de
working
trabajo.
hard because
Buenas
my
tardes,
colleagues do the
aquí
same.
Micheliendo para Michitai
Good
y
afternoon,
TJ Sports.
Micheliano for Michitai and
Personalmente veo un
TJ
equipo
Sports.
bastante aterrizado y bastante unido,
Personally, I
pero tal como lo
see a
observo
very
desde afuera,
grounded and
siento que hay
humble
mucha ilusión,
team, but
con altas
Rafa,
expectativas
there
por cómo llega la
is
selección al
a
torneo, con unas
country
buenas eliminatorias, con
full
muy
of
poco tiempo en
hope
Venezuela en puestos clasificatorios
waiting
para el
for
Mundial.
us to get
¿Cuál es el
to the
mensaje que le daría a toda
qualifiers,
esa gente que
and
está apoyando a la selección,
what is
tanto de usted,
the
profe, como de TJ Sports?
message to
Y
the
definitivamente
Venezuelan
es un país
people by
entero
you,
que
coach,
está
and
apostando por la
Rafa,
vino tinto.
and it is an entire country that has its eye on la vino tinto. There are 26 players that have the same level of illusion as the Venezuelan people. They want to perform excellently in this tournament and then continue towards the qualifiers. But as you mentioned, we have to keep our feet on the ground and keep these mindset, and of course when the results come, there's a dream, the illusion, and we have it as well as a coaching staff and the players, and hopefully through soccer
El
we
problema
can
con las
bring this
expectativas es
joy
que
to the
son muy
Venezuelan people.
difíciles de satisfacer
The
porque
problem with
pueden ser muy altas
expectations is
o se
that
pueden
they
quedar
are
cortas. Nosotros lo que
difficult
tenemos es que
to
tener,
meet,
como tú lo
so
decías, los pies sobre la tierra, afrontar
we
la realidad
have
que vivimos, disfrutar el
to
momento que vivimos,
stay
dar lo
grounded
mejor.
and
Sabemos que el país
enjoy
está con nosotros, sabemos
this
que hay mucha
moment
ilusión,
and give
pero
our best.
esto
We
termina siendo
know that
un torneo
there
de
is a
fútbol
great
donde
level
muchas cosas
of
pueden pasar
illusion,
y
but this
nosotros
is a
como te digo, tenemos que
tournament
seguir
and
dando el
many
máximo,
things can
intentar
happen.
llevar a Venezuela lo más
So
alto
we
posible.
will do our best and to bring
Buenas
Venezuela
tardes, por acá
uh,
Bruno Gómez de Sport
to the
Venezuela.
best
Primero para Rafa.
possible
Rafa,
outcome.
había escuchado quejas de la cancha, pero no de la pelota.
Rafa,
Y como arquero te pregunto, ¿cómo has
we've heard
estado
complaints on the
¿cómo has
pitch, but
sentido
not on the
viendo
ball.
los
As a
goles de Costa Rica y
goalkeeper, what
Venezuela
is your
anoche? Porque
take on
se quejaron
the ball?
bastante y
The
me llamó
Costa
la atención.
Rican
Y
players
para
yesterday
Batista,
complained
en la rueda de
a bit
prensa un
about it.
poco de
It called
México.
my
No sé si
attention, and
sería por un enfrentamiento
coach,
sub-23 con la selección argentina
the
directamente y que
Mexican
sabía que
coach
Venezuela no tenía
said
bandera
that
3.
he knew you
Diego, les
from a
preguntaba esto, quejas de
U23
jugadores que
match
no conoces
against
y con esta selección
Argentina.
mexicana
What
que
is your
no ha
take
llegado
on
lejos
Lozano
en los
and
representantes de
on
la
his
sub-23? Gracias.
national team, having already met him when you were leading the U23 Argentina's team? Yes, we played against each other in Pan American Games. I think that he um, shows everything through the performance of his team, and we have a clear strategy to go against them. We have to go for their goal, and hopefully it will be a great match. And all my
No,
respect to
la
Jimmy, because
pelota
we have
yo la veo
met
bien.
each other.
Sé
Yes.
que tengo la
Well,
suerte de conocerla porque es la misma que se
the
usa en la
ball
Copa Sudamericana, así que
is
estoy bastante
okay. This is the
acostumbrado
same ball that is
a
used
ella
in the South
y creo
American
que
Cup. I
también se
am
usa
used
en
to
varios
it,
campeonatos
and I
a
think
nivel
it is
mundial, campeonatos
used
importantes, así que creo
in
que
many
una mala
world-class
pelota, pero es
tournaments,
normal,
so I
hay que
don't think it
acostumbrarse,
is a,
todas
a
cambian, varían, tienen distintos movimientos, pero yo
a
la siento que
poor
es
quality ball. I think
no
it's
es un
just
elemento
different.
diferenciador dentro de los
You have
team
to
porque
adapt, and I don't think it makes any
Buenas
difference
tardes, profe. Fernando
right
Petrocelli,
now.
Ruta Vinotinto. Rafa.
Fernando
Profe,
Pretocelli,
sé
Ruta
entender
Vino
que usted
Tinto.
conoce Santi Jiménez, ¿no? Tengo
Coach,
entendido que cuando estaba
you
en
really
la
know Santi
selección usted
Jimenez
como
as a
juvenil intentó
forward.
llevarlo,
When he
intentó
was,
convencerlo a través de su padre.
I
¿Qué
know
tipo de
that you
delantero se va
tried
a
to
enfrentar
convince
Venezuela mañana?
him to
¿Cuáles son los
play
recaudos que usted le han hecho a esos
when he was
centrales? Y
playing
para
in youth
Rafa, recuerdo que
categories.
incluso alguna vez cuando fuiste
Uh,
tercer arquero en la era de Leo
and
González dijiste, los viajes son
Rafa,
muy
when
largos,
you
quizá
were the
no es momento
third
para ir
goalkeeper
en ese
in
momento.
Leo Gonzalez
¿Soñabas con
cycle,
esto? ¿Veías muy
you said
lejos este
that the
protagonismo en la
trips were
selección?
too
Gracias.
long, that everything was too far, that
sí,
maybe it wasn't the right time for you.
a ver si podía
Did
vestir
you
la camiseta de la selección
think
argentina,
being a
porque
protagonist
es una
was
decisión
an unachievable
irrespetable.
dream?
Un delantero
Yes,
que es del
I
área, que
tried
tiene
to convince
conocimientos
him to play for
técnicos
Argentina when he
del
was
delantero
young,
que necesita
and
ese
but he is
metro a metro
he made a
y
decision
pasar
to
mal.
stay in Venezuela, and he's very
Esperemos
respectable,
de ajustarlo
and
y estar siempre bien cerca para que
will
él
always
pueda
try to
desarrollar el
adjust
juego que tiene.
so that he's not able to
Mira,
develop
justo
his level
con
of
Leo
play.
tengo una anécdota personal porque fue el
Well, I
momento que yo
have
sentí que podía estar compitiendo por un puesto. Fue
a
Leo que me recomendó la
personal
titularidad en la eliminatoria contra Ecuador, allá
experience
en
with
Quito. Y
Leo.
en ese momento dije, yo
Leo
aquí estoy compitiendo, se me está
gave
viendo.
me back
Era
the
difícil, era la época del COVID,
starter
viajar y todo eso
jersey.
se complicaba, pero
Back
nunca fue
then,
un factor
it was tough
que
to
me alejara de la
travel
selección.
during
Incluso
COVID, but it
tuve problemas
wasn't
con mi
a
club, salí de
factor
Bélgica
that kept me
por
away
eso.
from the
Y
team.
hasta montaba un avión en una cola de los aviones de la
And
Liga Española que iba de
I
regreso a Europa
remember
porque
that
tuve
the
que ir
Spanish
para
league,
poder
when I was
regresar a
going
tiempo
back to
a mi club y
Europe,
poder jugar. Yo creo que, como te digo, la selección siempre es un
I
privilegio, uno
had to
siempre quiere
go
estar
back
y
to
bueno,
be on time and be
a
able to
veces
play
se
for my
complica,
national
se
team.
viven momentos difíciles,
So
pero mi intención siempre
sometimes it's
ha sido estar aquí.
complicated.
Última
There
pregunta.
are a lot of tough
Profe,
moments
Jesús
playing
Sáez,
for the
de
national team,
Teleradio
but I have
Digital.
always wanted to be
La
here.
pregunta es sencilla. ¿Cuál
Teleradio
usted cree que
Digital,
será el
coach.
punto de
An
quiebre
easy
para
question.
enfrentar a la
What do you
selección
think
mexicana,
would
ya que
be
es una selección
the
de las
breaking
mejores que ha tenido
point for the
México en los
Mexican
últimos años?
team?
Y para ti,
Because
Rafa,
this is one
¿cómo
of the
controlar esa
best
parte
national
anímica del
teams
equipo para
Mexico has
mantenerse y
ever had.
apuntar
And
al
Rafa,
partido de mañana, ya que
how
estamos
do
casi
you
en
handle the
la previa a la siguiente
mindset
fase?
or the feelings of the team before
Eh,
tomorrow's match?
Estos torneos cortos son difíciles, mira.
These short tournaments are
Llevamos un
very
poco a lo
difficult.
que pasó en la Eurocopa, Croacia se queda fuera en el último minuto,
If
hoy
you think
Austria
about
gana un
Euro
grupo muy
Cup,
complicado. Yo creo que
Croatia
este
was
tipo de
out in the
torneos
last minute,
no te puedes
Austria
descuidar, tienes que
won
vivirlo
in a very
desde principio a
complicated
fin con el nivel de
group.
intensidad.
So you
Nosotros,
cannot
si bien
distract
logramos 3
here.
puntos que nos van a
You
permitir
have to
tener
live it
opciones hasta el final
intensely.
de
And
la fase de
these
grupo, no va a
three
ser fácil contra
points we
México, no va a ser
already
fácil contra
got
Jamaica y
will
Ecuador.
allow us to
Lo
have
que vamos a
options,
intentar es
but it won't be easy
siempre estar
against
concentrados, siempre
Mexico.
estar
And
viviendo el partido, viviendo los momentos,
I'm
porque
sorry,
en un
yes,
descuido se puede ir
against
y es
Mexico.
algo que no queremos
And
que ocurra.
but we have to keep an eye on it. We
El
cannot let
quiebre
it slip.
será, bueno,
Well, the breaking
es
point
tener, digo, principalmente mucha concentración, estar atentos,
is
jugar con esa
to
intensidad que
maintain
lo venimos haciendo.
focus,
Cuando nos toque
keeping up the
tener la pelota, tratar
intensity,
de que
and
el rival
when we have
corra
possession
y
of
la
the
tenga,
ball,
y cuando pasemos esos momentos difíciles,
may
como pasa a cualquier equipo en
ensuring
una
that
situación
the
de
opponent
partido,
does not recover it,
estar bien
and
preparado y
always
estar por
being
ahí.
ready and
Yo creo que va a ser un
prepared at all
partido
times. I
corto,
think
vamos a estar estudiando
it will be a
desde el
match where
principio y
we'll
después, como digo,
study each other all the time,
que
and
mayor concentración, que mayor actitud, que mayor
I
intensidad
think
tenga
the
para
one with
poder
the
plantearse el
greater
partido
concentration,
para defender la
attitude, and
Agradecemos al
intensity
técnico Fernando
has
Batista y a Rafael Romo por ser
will
parte de la
be
conferencia
the
de prensa
winner.
de la Conmebol
Thank you,
Copa América
Fernando
Estados Unidos
Batista and
2024.
Rafael Romo,
Buenas
for
tardes.
being
Buenas
part
tardes.
of this press conference for Conmebol Copa America USA 2024. Thank you very much.